Hey folks, it's Lucid, and I'm coming at you now with a video on early age Pyrene. So this is one of the new Dominion 6 factions that was added. It's pretty interesting. I haven't played them. I haven't really played any Dominion 6 multiplayer games to speak of. We had like a couple small things in beta that didn't go past like turn 14, but yeah. So I'm going to be playing them in a single player game. So I want to go ahead and put up a national overview. But, I don't have like super informed opinions that normally come from getting my ass kicked with them in a multiplayer game, which is how all good learning is done in Dominions. But I still have some things to say, and I've thought about them a bit. So I'm not sure, just as a disclaimer, if you're hoping I was going to tell you like this is the definitive way to play them and this is the pretender you should take, I don't think I have figured it out. I mean, we obviously... indecision is not a viable choice. Like when we play, we're actually going to have to pick a pretender, but I doubt it's going to be optimal. We're going to start this video with a brief bit on the lore. All right, so this is the Dominion 6 manual. Illwinter was kind enough to send me a physical copy. I'm not sure if you guys have if that's out yet for the public, but I've got mine on my coffee table, so it's a treasured possession. They didn't sign it. That would have been awesome. But I think it got sent to me straight from the manufacturer. All right. So Early Age Pyrene is a nation inspired by Basque mythology and an Ars Magica campaign of theirs set in the Pyrenes. The caves of Erige and prehistoric cave paintings combined with Becerril myth were great inspirational sources for the setting. And I'm going to mispronounce a ton of things in this video, so... if it's going to trigger you, probably good to go ahead and leave now. All right. The giants of the Basque myth were also incorporated, and one of my players created a character of giant descent. And Dominions, more of Basque myth have been reworked and incorporated, although I'd like to add more stuff. So pretty interesting. I love that it's like a mix of an Ars Magica RPG campaign. And yeah, the Basque mythology is actually pretty interesting too. I don't really know much about it. But apparently there's not much left of it. Like most of the things we know is, it's not from like artifacts and stuff, though some things can be kind of gleaned from cave paintings. A lot of it is like old lore and like truly just stories that got passed down. It's not like a culture that had great written records. So, and then when Christianity came through, a lot of it was just kind of wiped clean. So, anyway, it's kind of interesting. It's definitely something that's been lost to history. Okay. So, Pyrene, there's a lot to talk about. It's you can see there's like some caveman vibes going on here. There's giants, there's humans. Yeah, so it's also not, like a super cerebral nation. Like, we don't have astral magic. We don't have death magic. It's all, like, earthy. We got earth, nature, air, water. So kind of interesting. Where to start? I think we're going to start with, what are my favorite units in this. And I think it's part of when I play through this, I'm going to try to build some of this nation around. There's three things I need to show you, or three units I'm going to show you right at the start. One is this guy, the Gentil. So this is your big cap-only mage. It takes 4 recruitment points, so it's slow to recruit. He's an Earth 3 mage, which is huge, but then also has a nature and water cross path. That means he can do personal regen. He can do like Moss Body. Moss Body got nerfed, and it's not going to be amazing on a super combatant as it used to, because you can kind of get it to go away now, but it's still good. He's got 7 base natural protection, and then I think the Earth will stack with... No, I don't know. Anyway, it's going to go... He has enough base natural protection to get the full 20 out of Iron Skin. And then with armor, he's going to be good. But I think this guy, while he can be a good super combatant and can clear armies, I think a lot of times you actually want to use him for his forge bonus. He's a very expensive mage, as compared to like middle-aged Ohm, where you get the forge bonus for cheap, but still, forge bonus 2 is huge. It means you can forge 1 gem items. So any water item, any earth item, any nature item, you can make for 4 gems. So that means 1 gem Boots of the Messenger. It means 1 gem Demon Banes. It means, 1 gem Armor of Knights. A lot of things. So that's all pretty good. 1 gem Coral Blades, right? So, you could do Coral Blade plus, I'm not sure if there's a shield here and shields tend to add encumbrance, but Ulm is much more, it feels like some of the best, okay, so like Boots of the Messenger is always the thing if you're doing like Ulmish things, you like, God, why can't I make Boots of the Messenger for 1 gem? So anyway, these guys can. You get a couple of the randoms too, which can be nice, but also it means you get to make 6 gem items for 10 gem things. So like you can make 6 gem Earth Boots. You can make 6 gem, whatchamacallits, Thistle Maces, which are the nature booster. And then with water, you can make, I said Demon Bane, but also Water Lens, and Water Bracelet, which are the Temp Gem item and the Path Booster. So that means now any Water Mage can, for 1 gem, be a path higher. And if you get a fair number of these, you'll have a decent number of Water 2 mages, which you can make Water 3, which is cool. Water 4, in my opinion, is like the really big jumping point, because that's when you get access to Liquefy. And Frozen Heart spam is also really nice, so it's nice to just do that more efficiently. But I don't think we have like a super you'll get some of these guys who are going to have water paths. So these would probably be fine, Frozen Heart spammers or something. But you can see we're drifting off topic here. There's a lot of different items you can make with this guy. And this opens up this nation to do very budget thugging. Now, I have no idea how in the multiplayer scene thugging is going to have changed in Dominions 6. My guess is that it's significantly harder to do for various reasons, like protection thugging's harder. There's area of effect 0.1, or there's area of effect 1, no gem cost, weapons of sharpness, things you can cast. There's super high damage poison spells, which are new. So I expect it's going to be a lot more difficult. So it might be that this whole strategy of making gear and stuff isn't going to be super impactful, but you can still have in-army thugs that I think are going to be pretty good. So anyway, I'm sure thugging will exist in some form, but I think I'm just putting it out here. It's a question of how much you want to center your national strategy around them. Nevertheless, we're going to move on to the next person. Is there anything? Oh, their resource bonus too. So this can help with early production. But the thing is, you don't really need a lot of resources with this nation. Like, these guys are 2 resources. These guys are 3. You do have some human armored troops, but they're not that expensive either. Anyway, we'll go on to talk about them. Okay, so we've talked about these guys. Next, we're going to talk about these. I already kind of mentioned these two, or pulled them up. The Basawan, or however you say it, and the Basandir. And I'm going to mispronounce everything. I feel like I just have to keep telling you. But yeah, so these are interesting. You can only get them in forest provinces that have a lab and a temple and no fort. So in some ways, these are against my religion because they require me to have unforted temples, which is something I do not like. But I think they're worth it. When we compare them, as we're going to, with the rest of the mages in this nation, I think they stand out. I think they're the best. So this one, Earth Mage, can do pretty high level Earth magic, doesn't have the chance to get another Earth random, but you can make 6 gem Earth Boots, and then with Earth Power, this guy can be Earth 4. That means Petrify spam. It means you can do big area of effect buffs. You know, there's the area of effect 3 Iron Skin you can cast now without gems. You know, you can be doing a lot of these things with this guy. Also, the nature path means you can do Strength of Gaia. This one also has a bit more hit points, 31, compared to the lady of the forest, who has 26. But I think she has better magic paths. In general, if we were to just pick one. So there's interesting things here. She can do Strength of Gaia with just a gem. Or, and I'll show you the spell here, because you have to be Nature 3, and this gives you +1 nature magic and regeneration and bark skin and 4 strength on the caster. So really good. Or you can put a 6 gem. This is the forge bonus plus a hammer. The 6 gem discounted Thistle Mace on her. And then when she does it, so then she won't even have to use a gem to cast it. And she'll jump up all the way to Nature 4. And this is without any gems now, right? So you have like a Nature 4 mage. That's pretty sick. Now, Charm got moved out of Nature. So that was like some of the best combat magic for like retail, evocation type stuff that a Nature Mage could do. It was kind of like the workaday thing in Dominions 5 was in Nature Mages. Like if you got to Nature 3, you could do the Charm spell, But that moved to Glamour, so that's out. But now there's like these crazy poison spells that you can do. Regardless, really good paths for buffing. And what I think is actually really noteworthy is having, so they're both size 5, and you can put one of these in a tile with one of these and have them buff each other. If you get my drift. And then if they're kitted out on items, which you can make for 1 gem apiece, they're going to be really strong. Now, she can also do Howl, right? So you can have her with like a almost purely defensive kit, right? Like maybe she gets a shield and some other shit. You're not worried about her attacking. And then this guy's going to kill other stuff. So like we're getting into the realm where like these guys actually could be like a really great tag team pair. The thing to note, though, is, again, you need forests. Who knows how many the map's going to give you. And there are 2 recruitment points, which means you'll be getting them every other turn. On top of the fact you've invested now a ton in the infrastructure in the lab and the temple. They get cheap labs and temples, so there you go. Not even really that much of a problem. So this is like a power couple. I think they work super well together with support from the Gentle. So, yeah, I see great thugging opportunities for these guys. So that's my first, after studying the nation, that's kind of my first thing that's like this is like going to be a go-to thing to try out. We're going to go through the rest of the mages, and then we'll talk, because the rest of the mages, we'll just do it, and then we'll talk about the troops and strategies you can use. So this is your other capital mage. Both of these guys are capital only. This guy you can get in the capital and in Highlands. I think there's a couple other people like that. So the Serena, she is a high air mage, which this is now going to give you magic phase potential. And again, you can kit her out in 1 gem items, and she can magic phase attack stuff. Which, obviously this is not a super strong thug in the sense of, she's got 10 hit points, but we can do Coral Blades, right? Armor adds it hit points now. So as our people get kitted up, she's now got pretty good thug paths. This is definitely, with these paths, is going to be a thug that is capable, especially with these paths and a couple gems on her, right? For earth power, personal regen, or whatever she needs to do. This is a thug that potentially could dispose of armies. But we also have a lot of ranged options on this nation, and air magic is really good for that. Nature magic also is good on on ranged nations now, which is something we can talk about. It has the ability to turn into a stealthy black cat, and because that black cat keeps items now, or all shape changing does, you're not going to lose your items. It's going to make her very versatile as a Cloud Trapeze Raider, because she trapezes in, turns into a cat, and sneaks out. What you going to do? Also has Storm Immune, which is pretty interesting, and it has some lightning resistance, but that's from the air. So, and it's priest. A lot of our sacreds, one thing I didn't mention is these guys are sacred, but they are not priests. So it would be interesting to consider taking some blesses that support sacreds that don't need to be blessed. But, and that is a spoiler. Our sacred unit for this nation is not very good. I don't know if there's a nice way to say it. Okay, what next? So now we'll talk about this guy, the Meru champion. You can only get this guy in mountains, highlands, in your capital, and it's a big, strong dude. You know, he's got 23 strength. That's a lot, even compared to these guys who have 18. It's comparable with the Gentles, who are only 3 higher. So these guys hit really, really hard. If you need to, like, kill a god or something, you know, like you really need the really strong hit, they might be your person, right? And just put some really high damage weapon on them. But yeah, I don't know. They're cheap. They're really cheap. Like, you could also, they're so cheap and they're reasonably spammable. They're not sacred, so their upkeep cost is a bit. But, like, I mean, even upkeep, this is 128 a year, and this is 88 a year. I don't know. I'd rather have these guys. They're just so much more versatile. But you're making cheap items. These could be in-army thugs. You could do not with a... These I don't think are worth a full kit, but you might be like, all right, let's upgrade that mall, right? Or maybe you keep them all, right? If you're not worried about needing a magic weapon or things like that, you're like, let's just give you some armor, right? So you toss some armor on them, and you call it a day, right? And you put them in your army. And now you've got... And you're going to buff them up. If you're not going to cast buffs on them, you know, you wouldn't do it. But, you know, maybe you've got some in-army thugs that really, they're just mall carrier dudes with good armor. I don't know. And they can self-buff, they can do temper flesh and things like that. So, you know, I could see this guy having a use, but in my opinion, they're going to be used as in-army thugs. I don't think they're strong enough to... I mean, maybe with the full kit of gear they could, but I kind of don't think this guy is strong enough to do much raiding as a, like, solo operator thug. I could be wrong. Then you have this guy who can lead your sacreds around, who are also humans, and yeah, bless them. We've got the Tartalo. This guy's interesting. So this guy summons Mufalon. Mufalon are interesting because they give you supplies and siege chaff. So I think it could make sense to have, you know, a few of these guys making Mufalon that are going to help support big doom stacks. Mufalon also do not cost upkeep. So these guys are potential, like, free spawn creators, right? In terms of, like, you could have a free spawn economy. Rather than... One way to use Mufalon is just as they're there for the food supply and some extra siege chaff. But we only go a little bit. But perhaps in the late game, maybe there's some way to play these guys with, like, true Mufalon hordes. Now, you'd have to worry about Beast Mastery where they all get stolen, but if you have them in groups of 40, it's not really worth it. Anyway. We have this guy, the Burkide Shepherd, and they don't summon... So, again, very similar to the other guy. They're troop summoners, but they summon cave cows. Cave cows have a corrosive spit, which is kind of interesting. Kind of good. Especially if you're up against things that have... Because it's corrosive, it'll get through armor. It can be... Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not going to say too much about cave cows because I don't really know. But they can corrode armor. I think it's an armor-piercing ranged attack, so it's a little bit like a green lion, which is kind of good. People never really liked cave cows that much in Dominions 5 that I'm aware of. But these guys get them for free. The only thing is they do cost upkeep, right? So if you get cave cows, it's not real free spawn because you're still paying in terms of the upkeep. But if it's a unit you like, I could see adding a few of those to the army. And then we have a bunch of commanders. 50 leadership, 50, and 0. I think, who's the highest leadership? It might be one of... Yeah, these guys are solo operators. Yeah, we don't really have super high... So this guy's 75 is the highest leadership we get. So you're not getting any like leadership bonuses from these guys. And it makes sense. It's kind of... The idea is cavemen, right? They're not hyper-organized. Okay, so those are all the commanders. What sticks out to me? I think it's noteworthy to know that you have... Oh, we didn't cover this guy. Probably, I would say your lab rat, but he has an inept researcher penalty. Maybe in Magic 3, he's still... Or Magic 2 or 3, he's still your preferred researcher. But definitely don't want to take him in Drain. Earth 1, not a great path, but they can also bless, which is kind of nice. Water can be good for whatchamacallit, Frozen Heart spam. Earth 2, we've now got a useful mage. And then 1 nature, like an Earth 1 nature 1 mage, that's pretty much a garbage path combo at level 1. So I don't think these aren't super useful. I think unless you're... I mean, if you're like, okay, we really can use the Frozen Heart casters, and the Earth 2s are great, and the nature ones are maybe going to be lab monkeys or something, that could be fine. But yeah. Okay, so that's the commanders. So the ones that jump out are the ones who are doing the free spawn. So these ones are kind of interesting. I don't it's not great free spawn, right? Like I don't think you may in the mid game want to have a free, like I love free spawn as a concept. I like that the nation has the option of it. I generally will default towards free spawn if a nation has that. But looking at this free spawn, I don't love it. But maybe I just haven't tried it yet. Maybe I'll get a sweet tooth. We might try it some in our single player game, see how we feel about it. These guys potentially is in army thugs. I think the sacreds you mostly ignore. Though this guy might be useful just as a leader. He's also inspirational too. So I think this guy you do use as a leader, I think. But this guy's sick magic phase attacks. I think while these are super combatants to use against your hardest targets, I think in general you probably want to use them for their item production. Let's put a thought to this too. It was something I meant to do, but their upkeep is 198 a year, so that's about like what divided by 12. 1 second. That's about like 19 or something gold a turn. Or I'm sorry, like 16 gold a turn. Yeah, so you're paying that for a 2 gem discount. So you're basically charging, I don't know, like you're getting charged like 8 gold a gem. But of course the upfront cost of producing them, which is certainly significant. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know the right cost to value on it. It's more than 8, but you know, it seems a fair price. But you're basically taking gold and turning it into gems. But you can only make, one of these guys every other turn in your capital. So, and to really make it super efficient, you also need to make hammers, which these guys do super easily. So, you got these guys, which are kind of like your gem economy. And then you've got these guys who I think, especially in pairs, but probably these ladies probably more as solo operators, I would think. But if you're going to put them in pairs, I think they would work really well in pairs together. But yeah, you've got great thugging options. In the troop lineup, these folks are pretty interesting. The Beckeride, yeah. The Beckeride. So they've got so this is a human troop, costs more than a normal human troop at 12 gold, but for that, they get better than normal human strength. They get better than normal human hit points. They get heat resistance, cold resistance. And then they've got a big freaking great club. They hit for 22 damage, which is a tremendous amount of damage. Mediocre attack and defense, and not very good protection. So they're kind of going to die in droves. But they also have a sticks and stones attack. And what's interesting about this is you get 2 attacks per round. So it's like a sling or something where you get 2 attacks. The range is equal to your strength, and the damage is equal to your strength minus 3. So in this case, we got 12 strength, minus 3 is 9 damage. So if you do strength buffs on them, which is reasonably easy for this nation to do since we got big earth mages, yeah, this will go up linearly, right? So these guys with strength buffs are going to go from like 9 damage. You do +4, it's going to go up to 13. So that's kind of sick. And then this is a two-handed weapon. So it's going to get -5 instead of -4 from strength. So it's going to go up to 27. So you're going to have 3 of these guys a tile doing 27 damage. That's a lot of damage. How I think you use them is you want to have like Arrow Fiend on them. Ideally, you want to have Wind Guide cast, where they're going to have better aim. You're going to have the strength buffs on them, and then they're just going to be pelting the enemy. You don't have fire access on this nation, right? So we can't do flaming arrows. Which is kind of weird for a nation that starts with like Pyrene. You think it's like a fire-themed nation, but it's not. So you can't do flaming arrows. But you can do envenomed arrows or serpent hail arrows, right? Which is the poison arrow one. And I believe that will work on these. So, yeah. I think these are I think this actually is probably your best unit. This is the one I would be most inclined to make. I don't know if these are going to be the best ones to expand with. I think they might be too high of attrition to expand with. The slings and stones and stuff, like you don't really want these guys, especially at 12 gold. You don't really want them trading with like tribes. I don't think. I mean, they do get 2 attacks, but like 2 of these, and then they're going to be okay in melee. I'll have to test probably before we stream, but. You might not use them for expansion. For expansion, you can consider using the heavy infantry. They're certainly going to be more resistant to getting pelted, if you do actually want to have a front line. I'm kind of inclined for player battles, like PvP stuff, once you get done with indies, to just swarm these guys, just have huge piles of them. Not even have a front line, just let these guys be the front line. But if you're going to put it a front line, you probably want to use the human guys. They've got a shield, so they're going to be resistant to your slings. And they've got okay enough protection. They're fine. They also have the hot and cold resistance, which is nice. And they've got a little bit of dark vision, which is nice. These guys also have dark vision, so that's another thing you can use at some point. If your opponent doesn't, you can try to put up like... you don't have any of the real means to put up any of the darkness spells, but if you get them, it's something to consider. Yeah, I don't like these guys that much. I really prefer the Great Club folks. Now, these guys do have to worry a bit about repel a bit more than others, but... anyway, these guys have nets too. I don't know. I think for me, I'm a simple man. I'm a man of simple tastes. I like a really big club that does 27 damage when you hit somebody with it, rather than like, okay, yeah, we've got a net. I'm sure there are cases where this is better, okay? But I kind of just like a great club. And then you have these guys, the Maru Warriors, who are basically giants. They've got really big 34 damage great clubs. They're going to be... I have a feeling these are your best guys for expansion. They're size 6, so you cannot put 2 per tile. So they're at the 1 per tile threshold. You've got 4 points left over. I think the best way to maybe do it might be mixing these guys... Well, no. How many ammo do the Stone Hurlers have? 2? Yeah. I have a feeling mixing these 2 guys together might be the best bet. But I don't think you want these guys alone. The reason is their attack density's low. They have bad defense and not great protection. They're going to die reasonably quickly. You absolutely, if you're going to use these guys in expansion, you have to put other people mixed in with them that are human. So I would probably lean towards... I think you could use any of them. The nice thing about them is they have enough hit points where if you kill the enemy in reasonably short order, you might have less attrition. Like, these guys are going to have very high attrition. But I think with this faction, you kind of plan on a fair amount of attrition in expansion. But yeah. And then the Boulder Hurler, he gets a siege bonus, which is kind of cool. So I think that's worth it. And you can only get these guys in the capital. But yeah, I mean, in terms of siege strength, they're 10 siege strength per unit, while only costing about 3 times as much as your normal units. Now, these guys do, because they have higher than normal human strength, they do have a bit higher siege strength. But these guys are still your most efficient siege units. And then you have the Sacred. We'll take a look at it. It's a bodyguard. It basically has the same stats as the other units, except it has bodyguard, and it's Sacred. Has a little bit more hit points, tiny bit better armor. It's not very good, right? Like, the defense stat is okay. Attack is 1 greater than... It just isn't very good. And it's like... And if you don't put a bless in it, then, there might be maybe there's some way to think about it where these guys can do a specialized job. I'm not really sure what job I would want them to do, but it's worth thinking about. A lot of the things we're going to be using, like the Gentiles and these guys, are sacred, but I'm not really, they're not, I'd have to bring in extra priests to bless them. I don't know if that's what I want to do. So, where do we land? Let's kind of put a ribbon on this. It's a nation that has huge chaff swarms that these guys, especially if you figure out a way to bring a firecaster, right, because your nation doesn't get them, you could have huge flaming arrows, wind guide, poison hail, or serpent, what is it, serpent's hail? I don't know. The poison arrow spell, right? They can have all the things on it. They'll be buffed up with strength. So this is going to be like a huge swarm of poo, basically, that they're throwing at the enemy. I could see these guys being really oppressive. But, Arrowfend is still a thing. The enemy will get it. The good thing is that they're still super killy in melee, right? But they don't have magic weapons. So... It's an interesting nation where there's, where's our magic weapons on this nation? Oh, I forgot we didn't have any, right? Even the Sacreds don't have it. Maybe you put some magic weapons on the Sacreds. I don't know. Through your bless. But so you don't really have magic weapons, but you do have thugs and cheap items. But you have these trash units. It's kind of like middle-aged Ulm with good nature water access and trash swarms. And I like that. I think this would be a fun nation to play. I don't have any idea if they're strong or weak. My expectation, I don't think you would want to run, Early Age is an era with a lot of good Sacreds. I think there's so many different Sacreds that for a variety of reasons, you do not want to attack Pyrene. Most Sacreds in Early Age don't have amazing protection. And enough where they want to be hit by tons and tons of arrows. And if they do, maybe EA Vanheim, they've got the Van Heers, but they've got the Barkskin Bless or whatever they're doing these days in Dominion 6. So that with the Berserk, they actually do have really good protection. It's but their protection still isn't good enough where they probably want to be hit by 27 damage Great Clubs, Or if we decide 27 damage isn't enough, we can get these guys up to 39. It just, and then you also are dealing with the possibility you get super combatanted. I think the great challenge for this nation is you don't have great magic diversity, and you're missing basically most of the sorcery paths, right? And those tend to be the ones that kind of do better. I don't know if this is the case in Dominion 6, but in Dominions 5, those tended to be the paths that scaled better into the late game. We don't have... Sorry about that cough. I'm still recovering from COVID. We don't have the kind of magic paths that are going to scale really great, and we also don't have magic weapons, which means once Fog Warriors comes out, it's going to be a little distressing. So I think those are things to think about. How you're gonna manage in the mid and late game. Not really. I don't think the early game is a problem for this nation, or even the mid game. And you have cool things, like your item production, which are going to be a great asset in the late game. But I don't know if that's enough. So anyway, that's about it for this nation. I'll see you in a single player game, hopefully in not very long. Take care. I'll probably stream it too. So see you then.